Ethiopia stands at a critical juncture, its future hanging in the balance. The nation's political landscape is fragmented, and the path to democracy is fraught with challenges. This article delves into the heart of Ethiopia's crisis, exploring the moral, institutional, and political imperatives that shape its journey towards democratic transition. The birth of a coalition, a glimmer of hope amidst the fractures of trust and political division. A coalition of elites has emerged, offering a glimmer of hope for Ethiopia's survival and democratic renewal. This coalition, a product of both desperation and creativity, represents a bold step towards transcending the cycles of mistrust and fragmentation that have plagued the nation. A moral imperative, beyond power towards process. The article argues that Ethiopia's redemption lies not in the emergence of new rulers, but in reimagining the political covenant. Legitimacy must derive from the consent of the governed, fostering a republic founded on shared trust, justice, accountability, and collective renewal. It is a call to action for Ethiopia's political elites to transcend the pursuit of immediate power and establish a neutral, transparent framework that empowers the people to elect their leaders. The three-part reflection, a journey towards deliberation. This three-part reflection aims to guide Ethiopia from division to deliberation and ultimately to a democratic transition that belongs to the people themselves. It explores how the coalition can navigate the delicate balance between triumph and paralysis, fostering integrity, discipline, and courage as the ethical foundations of this transition. Part 1. Diagnosing the fragmentation. The first part delves into Ethiopia's political fragmentation, examining the moral challenge of trust. It highlights the historical legacies that continue to divide the political elite, primarily among the Amhara, Oromo, and Tigray groups. The current conflicts and the three competing perspectives on Ethiopia's future are laid bare, emphasizing the weakened state of domestic political parties and the struggle of exiled elites to build cohesion. The state of Ethiopia, a failing state. Ethiopia, by many measures, exhibits traits of state failure. The article explores the breakdown of law and order, entrenched corruption, economic decline, widespread poverty, and the lack of political stability and legitimate governance. It assesses the state's fragility through its persistent inability to deliver civil peace, security, and effective services. The current regime, a desperate struggle for power. The current Ethiopian regime is portrayed as a desperate autocratic leader, consciously scripting chaos in various regions and dimensions. Its foundation in dishonesty, apathy, secrecy, and impunity is highlighted, along with its disregard for people, truth, justice, and democracy. The regime's inability to govern effectively is evident in its dire economic conditions, internal contradictions, and the potential for popular uprising. A coalition's formation. Warning and commitment. The formation of the coalition is seen as both a warning sign of Ethiopia's unsustainable trajectory and a commitment to expand its base for national survival. It reflects the creativity of the Ethiopian political imagination in the face of elite paralysis. However, its long-term viability depends on inclusiveness, transparency, and a clear understanding of the relationship between means and ends. Part 2. Exploring the dimensions of power. The second part of the reflection delves into the ideological, theoretical, and psychological dimensions of power and perception that shape transitions. It explores how political initiative can be taken despite the absence of formal popular authority and the presence of a repressive dictatorship. The coalition's formation is likened to a fragile space of appearance where novel possibilities can be explored, but the extent of its novelty remains to be observed. The paradox of transitional politics. The coalition exemplifies a paradox inherent to transitional politics. Substantial political action is necessary, but it must navigate the absence of formal popular authority. Political philosophers caution that authority must rest on the collective will of the people. And this principle resonates in Ethiopia's fragmented landscape. The coalition stands at a pivotal juncture where it can either exemplify a new culture of transparency and civic duty, or perpetuate Ethiopia's heritage of exclusive elite negotiations. The coalition's credibility beyond resistance. The coalition's credibility depends not only on its resistance to authoritarian rule, but also on its ability to establish a neutral caretaker structure. This structure should prioritize safeguarding the process over consolidating power, allowing Ethiopians to determine their future. The coalition must demonstrate inclusiveness, cultivate legitimacy, and build durable structures to make its diversity an asset rather than a liability. Part 3. Navigating the context. The third part translates the insights from the previous sections into institutional frameworks. It outlines practical roadmaps, moral safeguards, and structural designs for a neutral caretaker transition. The coalition's heterogeneity, bringing together federalists, civic nationalists, and separatists, is both its strength and weakness. It exemplifies the possibility of dialogue across divides, but consensus is difficult even within the platform. The coalition's mediating role, managing irreconcilable visions. The coalition cannot impose a solution to the deep-rooted disagreements over the state's identity. Its potential lies in creating procedural guarantees that ensure disagreements are resolved democratically, not violently. It can promote mechanisms like referendums and constitutional conventions to manage these irreconcilable visions through fair and democratic procedures. Inclusiveness, a moral and practical necessity. The coalition's survival and influence depend on inclusiveness, legitimacy, and institutional design. Ethiopia's history of exclusion and the regime's refusal to engage opposition groups make these challenges acute. The coalition must commit to radical inclusiveness, expanding its reach to include diaspora groups, surviving parties, civil society organizations, and voices from neglected regions. Vertical inclusiveness, connecting with citizens, building bridges with citizens inside Ethiopia is vital. The coalition must find creative mechanisms to amplify local voices, such as digital consultations and liaisons with religious leaders. By incorporating these voices, the coalition demonstrates its responsiveness to those living under authoritarianism. Without vertical inclusiveness, it risks being dismissed as out of touch. Legitimacy. Beyond self-appointment, legitimacy requires more than self-appointment. The coalition must widen its membership to reflect Ethiopia's full diversity and ensure transparency in decision-making. The effectiveness of its actions is closely intertwined with its legitimacy. A well-defined plan for a smooth transition, emphasizing the rejection of power negotiations and advocating for a neutral caretaker government, will underscore its value to the people. Institutional design. Building durability. Institutions are crucial to embodying values of inclusiveness and transparency. Possible design features include rotating leadership, advisory committees, consensus mechanisms, and linkages to domestic actors. Regular public reporting on debates and disagreements is essential to building trust with citizens. The problem of trust, a cornerstone of transition. Trust is the cornerstone upon which sustainable political initiatives must be built. The prolonged periods of authoritarian governance and the ethnicization of the political sphere have fostered a culture of suspicion. Political parties exhibit mutual distrust, and citizens are skeptical of elites. For the coalition, cultivating trust is the foremost challenge, both internally and externally. Internal trust, cohesion, and transparency. The coalition's diversity is a source of strength and vulnerability. Establishing transparent governance mechanisms, including codes of conduct and rotating leadership, is essential to fostering internal cohesion and mitigating domination. Financial transparency is critical to addressing past allegations of undisclosed funding. External trust, bridging the disconnect. Securing the trust of citizens within Ethiopia is a formidable challenge. The coalition must demonstrate a commitment to listening attentively. Secure digital consultations, collaborations with civic and religious leaders, and incorporating youth and women's perspectives are vital. Without vertical inclusiveness, the coalition risks being perceived as another distant circle of elites. Acknowledgement and apology. Honesty and accountability. Honesty and accountability are paramount, especially for coalition members with contentious pasts. Openly acknowledging previous missteps and committing to transparency could exemplify the humility often lacking in Ethiopia's political culture. Members with controversial histories may need to disclose their past actions, issue apologies, or undergo internal vetting processes. Historical caution. Learning from painful experiences, Ethiopians, scarred by cycles of authoritarianism and betrayal, approach political promises with profound skepticism. Unless elites convincingly demonstrate a departure from historical patterns of power grabs and elite collusion, mistrust will persist. The coalition must confront the historical burden it carries through a commitment to transitional justice, addressing the atrocities in Tigray and the violence in other regions. Trust across political divides, bridging ideological chasms. The coalition must offer assurances that disagreements will be resolved through equitable procedures, not coercion. The concept of a neutral caretaker government becomes crucial in this context, providing a framework for all factions to negotiate Ethiopia's future without apprehension of domination. Bridging ideological chasms is not just coalition building. It is a matter of national survival. The paradox of political promises, credibility, and change. Trust in politics is rooted in the creation and fulfillment of promises. In Ethiopia, where experiences of betrayal have eroded distrust, the coalition's sustainability hinges on demonstrating that political promises can be credible. Trust must be nurtured through deliberate actions characterized by transparency, humility, fairness, and the establishment of neutral caretaker mechanisms. Navigating suspicion and legitimacy, a delicate balance. The coalition must navigate the paradox of earning trust while enduring suspicion. If Ethiopians harbor only suspicion without engagement, no coalition can attain legitimacy. The challenge is to transform fragile trust into enduring credibility by acknowledging past divisive rhetoric and substantiating intentions through concrete actions that prioritize process over power. Personal sacrifice and public trust, a call for accountability. Trust in Ethiopia is not given, it is earned through consistent action and unwavering commitment. Political trust is a delicate matter, and it cannot be inherited through sacrifice or demanded as a moral obligation. It must be cultivated through transparency and consistent action. Sacrifice may earn respect, but accountability and candor earn trust. From fragile trust to lasting credibility. Acknowledgement and action. The coalition must transform fragile trust into enduring credibility by acknowledging and apologizing for divisive comments. Validating goals through tangible actions that demonstrate a commitment to the process over power is crucial. The journey from suspicion to trust is Ethiopia's path to democratic transformation. Suspicion and hidden motives. Overcoming the burden of doubt. The coalition is overshadowed by pervasive suspicion, with allegations of concealed agendas among certain members. While some accusations may lack direct evidence, the historical context and previously articulated sentiments cannot be disregarded. This suspicion reflects deeper societal fissures and historical traumas. Political atonement, a path to reconciliation. For elites with contentious histories, political atonement is imperative. This involves acknowledging harmful rhetoric and committing to reconciliation. Only through radical transparency, credible commitments, and confronting past mistakes can hidden motives be dispelled. The coalition must recognize that overcoming suspicion is a moral imperative through a genuine democratic transition. Trust building, a multifaceted approach. Trust building in Ethiopia's fractured political landscape requires a multifaceted approach. By focusing on transparency, accountability, inclusive dialogue, and fair procedures, the coalition can lay the groundwork for a new political culture where trust becomes the foundation for democratic transition and governance. Transitional reflection, from fracture to perception. Ethiopia's challenges are not just institutional. they are moral. Trust, once earned, must be defended. The next challenge lies in public communication, framing and sharing the truth. The coalition must navigate the intangible battleground of ideas, narratives, and ideologies that shape the nature of power. This is where language and perception become tools for liberation. This three-part reflection aims to guide Ethiopia towards a democratic transition where trust, clarity of thought, and disciplined perception pave the way for a brighter future.